This audiobook is brought to you by Alpha Thinking. This channel is dedicated for those who think high and wish to self-help themselves without paying tons of money to fake gurus. We have listened to this audiobook more than 10 times and we hope you will find it useful too. We publish new videos each week, so make sure to subscribe to be part of our family. Without further ado, let's dive into the ocean of words.
On behalf of Cybervision Systems, I would like to welcome you to one of the most beneficial and powerfully effective personal achievement programs you will ever experience. The Neuropsychology of Self-Discipline, the Master Key to Success. My name is Richard Gebhardt, and I'm going to be your guide as we explore, learn, and use this fascinating and effective program for developing your power of self-discipline, the iron will, the inner strength and drive you need to achieve your life's goals and ambitions. This program is the result of many years of thoughtful scientific inquiry and research. In an attempt to discover and understand the main driving force, the core source of inner power that separates the dynamically achieving person from the unfulfilled, underachieving masses, Cybervision Systems has directed its financial and human resources to find the answer. Through its association with the famed Stanford University Neuropsychological Research Laboratory, and through 7 years of intensive investigation into the science of human achievement, Cybervision Systems has uncovered what it believes is the master key to success. The master key which unlocks the raw potential that lies dormant within the heart and mind of man. Simply stated, we call this key self-discipline. Self-discipline. What's the first thing that phrase makes you think of? Unfortunately, for most people, the term conjures up images of strictness, long stretches of boring or irritating work, of self-sacrifice and self-denial. Nothing could be further from the truth. Truly self-disciplined people are not bored, unhappy, or suffering from any kind of deprivation. In fact, they have learned to give themselves the true joy that comes from pursuing and achieving their most cherished goals and dreams. What, then, is self-discipline really all about? The simple answer may surprise you. Self-discipline is your ability to systematically and progressively work towards a goal until you have reached it. It includes acquiring knowledge and skills. It's your ability to become positively obsessed, single-minded, and efficient, to strive without giving up, to work consistently day after day, week after week, and year after year until your purpose is fulfilled. Self-discipline is the power to say, this is what I really want in life, and this is how I'm going to get it. And if I have to give up some other things, I will, because it's worth it in the long run. To be self-disciplined, you must learn to develop the kind of obsession that glows like a beacon in a storm. You must learn to watch that light and steer your course towards it, no matter what gets in your way or how long it takes. Like a sailor, you must learn to use the skills that will point you in the right direction, and you must keep on using all your knowledge, skill, and energy to stay on course until you have reached your destination. Self-discipline is the single ingredient that makes success possible for anyone who dreams of achieving great things. Without it, there would be no Olympic gold medal winners, no great artists, musicians, or writers, no brilliant inventors, Grand Prix winners, or multimillionaires. Every person who has made an enduring success of his or her life used self-discipline to get there. If self-discipline is so effective, why don't more people have it? Unfortunately, we live in a quick-fix society where old-fashioned effort isn't appreciated. Nearly everyone wants to be an overnight success. People spend their money as soon as they make it to get instant gratification through material things. And then the same people wonder why they're not getting anywhere. The truth is, without paying the price and without making an effort, most people will fail at what they set out to do. It takes years of hard work and discipline to master a skill or craft. Years of putting in 7-day work weeks to build a business from scratch into a multi-million-dollar operation. Years of schooling and internship to get a medical degree and start a doctor's practice. And years of tempering and seasoning to become a prima ballerina. We all greatly admire successful artists, business people, and doctors, among others. But how many of us are willing to put in the years of work it took for these people to get where they are? The late Ray Kroc, the founder and guiding genius behind McDonald's restaurants, told a wonderful story about the contrast between the self-disciplined achiever and the wishful thinker in a speech he gave to MBA candidates at Dartmouth College. He said, "I'm reminded of a story about the great pianist who gave a concert, and at the end a lady rushed up to him and said, 'I'd give anything in the world if I could play like that.' And he said, 'No, you wouldn't.' She could have if she wanted to. Anybody could. I know, as a piano player, that piano playing is mechanical to a great extent. But it's the dedication, the disciplining to practice that makes the difference. And when you're talking about a concert pianist, he has been practicing for years. Years of practice, several hours a day, every single day. Practice, 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 practice. Sacrifice and discipline. That's what it gets down to. And so he said, 'No, you wouldn't,' meaning that what she said she wanted to attain, she wouldn't pay the price to get. To discipline herself to do the studying and practicing required to be a concert pianist. How many times have you heard yourself saying, 'I'd give anything to be a doctor, or a lawyer, or president of a company, or a singer, actress, or dancer, if only I had the talent or the education or the intelligence?' The truth is, with a minimum of talent and average intelligence, you could be any one of those things. With a steady, sustained effort that never falters, never crumbles, and never gets lost in unimportant details, you can be anything you want. Many people believe that talent alone is the key to success. Talent might play its part, but it's not the difference. In every field of endeavor, millions of talented men and women with special talents are wasting away, contributing little to their own success or the good of mankind. And every day we see others who are less gifted, but who have accomplished more. Many believe that education is the key to success. Though it is a valuable aid, it is not the difference. The educated derelict is a common sight, and so is the man or woman who has achieved phenomenal success without the advantage of a formal education. And many believe that intelligence is the key to success. Even though a person with a high degree of intelligence is fortunate and possesses the raw materials to be successful, the relationship between intelligence and accomplishment is something less than balanced. Every day we encounter highly intelligent people who barely get by, and their opposite number, men and women of average intelligence, but superior achievements. The one quality which sets one man apart from another, the one key which lifts one to every aspiration while others are caught up in the mire of mediocrity, is not talent, formal education, nor intellectual brilliance. It's self-discipline. With self-discipline, all things are possible. It's the closest thing you could have to a wish-granting fairy godmother. Without self-discipline, even the simplest goal can seem like the impossible dream. In America today, the greatest cause of failure is the lack of self-discipline. Lacking self-discipline, millions of American dreams turn to ashes. With lofty visions of success, many people don't know that it takes more than wishful thinking, shortcuts, gimmicks, and get-rich-quick schemes to achieve excellence. Somehow, most people have lost sight of the age-old truth that anything worthwhile achieving takes time, organized, persistent effort, and more time. As you look around you, you'll see the many obvious fruits of the undisciplined mind: poverty, unhappiness, and drugs, the social cancer of a quick-fix society. But it is the not-so-obvious, more subtle effects of the lack of self-discipline that we address here, the raw power and potential of talented and intelligent people that lies dormant, unchanneled, and wasted, untapped and unfocused because of the inability of these people to commit and mobilize themselves to a course of consistent action. The lack of self-discipline is the #1 killer of achievement in America. Successful people have one thing in common. They set their sights on a goal and work every hour of every day towards reaching it. They learned what they needed to do to reach that goal, and they found a way to do it. If it meant taking on an extra job, they took the job. If it meant going to school at night, they attended evening classes. If it meant working countless hours 7 days a week, they worked the hours. If it meant relocating themselves and their families, they moved. Success consists of self-discipline, and self-discipline consists of doing whatever you have to do for as long as you have to do it to get where you want to be. If you truly want to seek your fortune, you must develop the inner strength to relentlessly pursue your vision day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, until it becomes a reality. And it will become a reality. Stop and think about all the things you wish you'd accomplished, the things you know you could have accomplished if you'd only had the self-discipline to pursue them. Would you have gotten more education? Practiced and practiced at your favorite sport until you had a chance of becoming a pro? Learn to read and write music and play an instrument? Study engineering so you could design and sell the ideas you're always dreaming up? Actually, there are things you've accomplished through self-discipline way back in your childhood. Just think, how long did it take you to learn how to walk? For how many weeks and months did you struggle to stand upright? How many bruises did you get from falling down? And how many times did you pick yourself up and try again? You learned to walk because as a toddler, you became obsessed with learning to walk. You were determined to learn, no matter how hard it was at first or how long it was going to take. Every step you took was a small victory, and every time you fell down, it was just an excuse to start all over. Children are naturally self-disciplined because children believe that everything is possible. Children don't say, "I can't do it." Children say, "I want to do it." When you want something badly enough, and when you believe in it strongly enough, self-discipline will get it for you. Self-discipline is the most powerful tool you own for bridging the gap between wishful thinking and real fulfillment. Without it, you can only stare, as author Amy Gross says, like a window shopper at the good things of life, and shrug and move on. You can have those good things by developing the self-discipline to achieve them. What do you want that you're willing to pay the price for? What means so much to you that you'll spend weeks, months, or years pursuing it? Start thinking about your most cherished dream, because with the power of self-discipline, you're finally going to be able to achieve it, and this program will teach you how. The neuropsychology of self-discipline, your master key to success, will show you how to take the raw materials you already possess, your talent, intelligence, strength, and motivation, and turn them into the assets you need to achieve your life's goals. You'll learn how to gain the knowledge and skills that will set you on the path to success. And you'll learn to develop the kind of positive strength it takes to stay on that path until you have reached the very end. You may think it's impossible for you to develop the kind of self-discipline you see others using to achieve success. You may think you're too lazy, too scattered, too quick to give up. And that may be true of the way you're behaving now. But most people aren't self-disciplined because they never had a chance to experience the kind of joy and satisfaction that comes with mastering their own abilities and applying them to the one thing they really want in life. Once you get a taste of how intoxicating, of how free self-discipline feels, you'll be hooked on it for life. The neuropsychology of self-discipline is not the result of pop psychological and faddish theories, nor does it contain simplistic pablum like success gimmicks found so often in many self-improvement programs. The neuropsychology of self-discipline program incorporates the breakthrough findings of one of the world's most respected brain researchers, Dr. Carl H. Pribram, director of the Stanford University Neuropsychological Research Laboratory, with the practical experience of Cybervision Systems' team of learning experts. Dr. Pribram is one of the most respected and renowned brain and behavioral researchers in the world. Trained as a neurosurgeon, Dr. Pribram has been conducting research into the brain and behavior for over 30 years. His pioneering work and discoveries have led to his being called the father of neuropsychology. Besides his responsibilities at Stanford, Dr. Pribram also serves as the Director of Advanced Research for Cybervision Systems. The neuropsychology of self-discipline incorporates two of Dr. Pribram's revolutionary discoveries. The first is his finding that our behavior is governed by images of achievement, and that without these images, we cannot mobilize and motivate ourselves to achieve our goals. The second is Dr. Pribram's discovery of how the human brain forms visual and sensory images and how these images affect our emotions, our power to commit ourselves to a course of action and see it through to the end with excellence through perseverance and persistence. Dr. Pribram's cutting-edge work lets us understand for the first time the relationship between thinking, sensing, motivation, and behavior. And by collaborating with Dr. Pribram, Cybervision Systems has been able to develop a powerful technology that enables you to harness your own mental processes and motivate yourself to develop the kind of iron will that will carry you through thick and thin to achieve your goals, achieve them well and completely, and enjoy the journey every inch of the way. You don't have to be a scientist to understand, apply, and benefit from these principles. All of the complex research, development, and testing has already been done for you. We've turned Dr. Pribram's research results into a simple but powerful technology anyone can use to learn the beauty and joy of true self-discipline. Your Neuropsychology of Self-Discipline program centers around 3 points of organization. First, in Session 2, you'll be introduced to a description of 10 characteristics of goal-achieving, highly disciplined people. Countless hours of research and interviewing went into gathering this information, all to discover the tools these people used to develop and exercise their powers of self-discipline. These characteristics will become a model or benchmark that you will strive to incorporate into your life. By keeping these characteristics close in mind, you'll have an achievable ideal against which you can measure your own behavior and habits as you strive to acquire and make permanent the skill of self-discipline. The second crucial section of this program is what we call the Knowledge and Information section. In Session 3, you'll be systematically guided through the easy-to-understand and learn principles of Cybervision's power of self-discipline. You'll learn once and for all that the power of self-discipline is the master key to your success. Not only will you learn why, but you'll thoroughly understand, in depth, the power principles of self-discipline. The third, and to you the most important section of the program, is what we call Action and Implementation. In Sessions 4 through 10, you'll begin the actual process of becoming self-disciplined, of developing the core skills that will enable you to achieve anything and everything you desire. You'll start by learning how to determine exactly what it is you want to achieve in your life. You'll then learn how to select role models who have already achieved what you desire to achieve and learn patterns of success from them. You'll discover how to transform those desires into emotion-provoking imaginary blueprints, sensory images rich in sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, images that excite and stimulate your emotions. You'll learn how to overcome the poisonous doubt that gnaws deep within you as you dwell and reflect upon your chances for success. You'll learn how to determine the knowledge and skills you need to achieve your desire and how to plan your time so that you can progressively achieve your goal over a sustained period of time. And you'll discover the principles of persistence, how to break through the barriers of time, how to keep going no matter how difficult, painful, or tiring it may be, until your dream is realized. Once you have mastered the principles of self-discipline, you'll discover that nothing, literally nothing, is impossible for you. You will feel like a lean, hungry lion who has just been set free from temporary captivity, proud, aggressive, and equipped with the instincts and tools of survival. Included with this program is a personal study guide. It was designed to assist you in mastering the materials and applying the techniques contained in the audio cassettes. Use it well, for it will help you every step of the way in developing the power of self-discipline. Before you go any further with the audio cassettes, please read the introduction in the study guide. Complete the written exercises for this session, Session 1. Then prepare yourself to listen to Session 2 by first reviewing the background information on Session 2 in the study guide. By following the principles of this program, you will, for the first time in your life, be able to achieve whatever it is you desire and accomplish it with the pride of excellence. Talking about success is one thing. Anybody can do that. Achieving it day by day, month by month, and year by year is another. That's what you're going to learn in this program. How to do it. Behind every great achiever, there's another achiever. It may be someone close to home, a parent, teacher, or friend. It may be someone who's currently famous. Or it may be a historical or mythological figure. There are probably many young cadets at West Point and Annapolis today who secretly dream of someday repeating the astonishing feats of General George S. Patton, the legendary World War II hero. Yet Patton himself attributed his success on the battlefield to great military leaders of the past. From early childhood, one of his favorites was Alexander the Great, the young Greek ruler who nearly conquered the world over 2,000 years ago. Fascinated by Alexander's repeatedly successful conquests and his dashing personal style, Patton read everything he could about the ancient warrior. Soon he came to know Alexander intimately, his personality, his leadership style, his way of thinking and solving problems, his military strategies. And finally, Patton got to the point where he could think like Alexander the Great, act like Alexander the Great, and get results like Alexander the Great. When he planned his battle strategies, Patton used tactics that followed along the lines of Alexander's greatest military achievements, and they worked. Patton was so successful in battle after battle that the Germans considered him to be the Allies' greatest weapon. Patton had Alexander the Great and his own disciplined personality to thank for his success. But Alexander himself had someone else to thank for his own brilliant military maneuvers. Alexander drew his inspiration from the mythical Greek god Hercules. After studying everything that had been written and that was known about the mythical god of courage and strength, Alexander began to pattern his thinking, personal style, and actions after him. There are countless other examples of the great learning from the great. Baseball champion Babe Ruth was once asked how he developed the hitting style that made people call him the king of the home run hitters. Ruth replied that he had simply studied and copied the greatest hitter of his time, a player called Shoeless Joe Jackson. Most, if not all, great achievers draw their inspiration, their style, and their strategies from role models. How much we eventually achieve in life may well boil down to one simple ingredient: the quality of the models we choose to emulate. All human behavior begins with models. We learn to walk, talk, dress, and feed ourselves by watching our families doing those things every day. But we learn more than simple everyday activities from the people who surround us as we grow up. We also learn how to think and behave by watching the way they do. Some people have excellent role models, successful parents, or a family friend who has achieved far beyond the ordinary. But having a role model is just the first step toward becoming a disciplined achiever. You must use that model, make it a part of your own personality in order to succeed. This program will take you through the entire process, from start to finish. In this session, you're going to start by being given a role model of your own, a model of the disciplined, motivated achiever. You'll learn the 10 dominant characteristics of that model and be able to compare your own behavior to it. And you'll also learn about its opposite, the undisciplined underachiever, and why that person is destined to fail. Years of research have gone into the creation of this model. Cybervision has studied people who have been successful in business, education, science, the arts, and other fields. These people were tested for the possible presence of dozens of characteristics and attitudes. And when all was said and done, Cybervision found 10 qualities that were common to every one of them. Understanding the characteristics of the highly disciplined achiever can be as inspiring to you as Alexander the Great was to George Patton. Together, they will form a living, breathing picture of the type of person who is highly self-disciplined and who gets things done. With this picture in front of you, you'll have a model to pattern your own behavior after, and you'll be able to begin to reshape your life along rewarding, achievement-oriented lines. As you listen to these 10 characteristics, compare your own behavior to each one. The idea isn't to become discouraged because you're not living up to an ideal. Rather, concentrate on rating your strengths and weaknesses so you'll understand from the beginning what areas you need to work on the most. Recognize that, as a Chinese philosopher once said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You've already taken that first step by acquiring and beginning to use this program. Now, let's discuss the 10 characteristics common among highly disciplined achievers. The first characteristic of a self-disciplined achiever is a strong, well-defined sense of purpose. The self-disciplined person knows precisely what he or she wants and will go for it, even if it means sacrificing other things in life to get it. Take Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen, for example. In 1887, when he was a boy of 15, Amundsen read the story of Arctic explorer Sir John Franklin. He was so inspired by Franklin's adventures that he secretly resolved to dedicate his life to polar exploration. And since no man had yet physically found the South Pole, Amundsen set his sights on being the first. His mother had other ideas. She wanted her son to be a doctor and insisted that he attend medical school. At first, Amundsen gave in, but then, unhappy and frustrated, he quit school, joined an exploration party, and went to sea. Amundsen spent years apprenticing in the treacherous Antarctic. It was hard physical work, and there was a lot to learn. He studied nautical techniques until he became a master sailor, and then he began to organize his own expeditions. 24 years after Amundsen chose his goal, he succeeded in achieving it. In 1911, he became the first man to find the South Pole. Contrast Amundsen's single-minded pursuit with the profile of a person who isn't sure what he or she wants to accomplish. The purposelessness personality drifts through life uncertainly, always searching, never finding. This is the type of person who changes jobs, leaves relationships, and starts projects but never finishes them. It's someone who never stays with anything long enough to become successful at it. People today are becoming more and more afraid of commitments. They're afraid of committing themselves to one career. They're afraid of committing themselves to one relationship. They're even afraid to commit themselves to staying in one place for very long. They talk about leaving their options open. Ironically, these people are very much committed to failure, because without a sense of purpose, they can't apply themselves to any one thing, and without applying themselves, they can never succeed. Look around you, and you'll see 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds who are still jumping from job to job, from relationship to relationship, always searching for an answer somewhere. They'll never find it. The second characteristic of the self-disciplined person is that he or she seeks out and uses positive role models, often called mentors. Patton found and learned from Alexander the Great. Roald Amundsen got his inspiration from Sir John Franklin. To be self-disciplined, you must find a mentor who can inspire you with his or her own example of discipline. This person will instill you with a sense of real possibility, the belief that if he can do it, so can I. The person who has no self-discipline tends to identify with and tries to emulate people whose values are quick fix. The undisciplined think success can be achieved through gimmicks, luck, or who you know. For this reason, they actually distrust and resent the truly successful. They cannot bring themselves to admit that it takes hard work and consistent effort to reach a lifelong goal. Rather than working to get their own lives in order, these people blame their lack of success on bad breaks. They will always have bad breaks until they give themselves a break. The third quality that distinguishes the self-disciplined person is the strength of his or her imagination. Self-disciplined people use a goal-setting technique called sensory vision. Robert Kennedy's immortal words explain it very well. Kennedy, himself a highly disciplined achiever, said, "Some men see things as they are and ask, why? I see things as they could be and ask, why not?" The key to developing this kind of vision is learning to use your imagination in a clear, creative way. Once you've decided on a goal, You must learn to visualize the outcome with strongly detailed, sensory-rich images. You must learn to clearly imagine the rewards of success through sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. The French have an expression, déjà vu, which means already seen. The self-disciplined, when they reach their goal, have this sense of déjà vu, because they have already been there thousands of times in their imaginations. You can be sure General Patton knew what victory felt like long before he fought his first battle. And for Roald Amundsen, reaching the South Pole must have felt like a homecoming. The great film director Alfred Hitchcock said that the actual process of directing a film was almost anticlimactic for him. By the time production started on each of his films, he had already visualized every single frame and every single camera angle so clearly in his own imagination that making the movie consisted of just going through the motions. Hitchcock began each project with a template of what he wanted clearly and firmly set in mind. Those who lack self-discipline also lack vision. They have only the vaguest images of goals they might, maybe, someday want to achieve. These people are quite capable of creating sensory-rich visions, but unfortunately, they tend to apply those visions to scenarios of failure rather than success. The fourth quality exhibited by the self-disciplined individual is what we call a positive sensory orientation. Achievers dwell on their own past accomplishments as proof of their ability to succeed. They won't admit to failure. In fact, it can truly be said that they don't know the meaning of the word failure. If things don't first turn out as planned, they just chalk it up to experience and keep on working toward their goal. Self-disciplined people are so eager to learn that they feel every bit of life experience just brings them closer to achieving success. They're not afraid to try new approaches if old ones don't work anymore. They never lose sight of their goal, but they're open to more than one way of achieving it. And this kind of positive attitude ensures that they will. Those who lack self-discipline waste precious time and energy dwelling upon past failures. Through a vicious cycle of negative reinforcement, they use those perceived failures as an excuse not to try again in the future. They develop a fear of failure, a fear of making the effort, and failure generates failure. If you're convinced you can't do something, you won't be able to do it. The characteristics we've discussed so far all add up to a quality called self-assurance. The self-disciplined have a strong gut-level belief in themselves and their ability to succeed that is truly unshakable. Deep down in their hearts, they know they can do it, and no one can convince them otherwise. When Christopher Columbus set out to find a new route to the West Indies, Europeans thought he was crazy. The world is flat, they told him. If you sail west, you'll fall off the edge and be devoured by monsters. But Columbus believed the world was round, and he stubbornly applied to every monarch in Europe until he found one who would finance his voyage to what turned out to be the New World. The disciplined achiever is fueled by self-confidence, but the undisciplined are hampered by self-doubt. This foreboding of failure haunts them in everything they attempt to do, and effectively slams the door shut on any possibility they might have of succeeding. The sixth characteristic that self-disciplined people share is their ability to plan and organize. The self-disciplined achiever knows how to take his or her goal and break it down into pieces that can be worked on one at a time. Priorities are set, and the important tasks are tackled at the beginning. This practical, methodical approach is the only way to achieve success, no matter what your endeavor. When Henry Ford designed the Model A, he had a goal in mind. He wanted every American to be able to afford to own a car, his car. But in those days, cars were hand-built, and the time and effort involved in making one resulted in a very expensive price tag. Ford knew he had to find a faster, cheaper way to build cars, so he patiently worked and planned out a radical new idea, the assembly line. Each person on the line would perform just one task, enabling them to perform it quickly, and an entire machine could be assembled in record time. People laughed and said it wouldn't work, but Ford had spent years planning it out in every detail, and it did work. The assembly line became such a success that other industries began to use it as well. One man's careful and patient planning launched a new industrial era. Contrast Henry Ford with the typical man on the street. His attention is scattered, and he's disorganized. He either has no idea what he's going to do next, or he has so many irons in the fire that he can't keep track of them all. Maybe he's trying to start a business, but he's busy hiring employees when he still doesn't have any clients or office space. Maybe he's decided to switch careers, but he's already planning how to spend all the money he's going to make, even though he's going to need 4 more years of schooling before he can begin to practice his new career. This type of person is wasting time and energy. Without a detailed game plan, and without following that plan as closely as possible until you reach your goal, you can spend your life floundering among half-started projects and missed opportunities for success. Many people think all you need to be successful is a great idea, but without planning, organization, and hard work, the most brilliant ideas aren't worth a dime. Which brings us to the 7th characteristic common to self-disciplined achievers: their ability to acquire the essential knowledge and skills they need to put their game plan to work. Achievers recognize how important it is to learn, and they're willing to make the necessary sacrifices to complete their own personal education. Sometimes this means going back to school. Sometimes it means spending weeks or months gathering information on a particular subject and talking to the kinds of people who can help. Sometimes it means taking a new type of job just to acquire certain skills. What it always means is a commitment to learning what must be learned in order to make a goal achievable. If you want to become a doctor, you must first study pre-med, then go to medical school, and then complete your internship before you can set up a practice. Anyone who thinks he can become a physician without doing all of those things is just dreaming. If you want to run your own business, there are ways of approaching your business education. You can go to graduate school and get an MBA. You can work for someone else in the type of business you want to start and get hands-on experience before going off on your own. You can find a partner who knows how to run a business and take on less responsibility in the beginning, watching what your partner does and learning the essentials. Those without self-discipline are always looking for shortcuts. They take weekend courses and think they're highly qualified for a new profession. They listen to one person's advice and think they've heard it all. They try to start a business without business plans. Going through a real learning process is too much trouble. Why is it so much trouble? Because the undisciplined person lacks patience, the 8th quality on our list of self-disciplined characteristics. The kinds of patience Christopher Columbus and Henry Ford exhibited. The kind of patience engineer Washington Augustus Roebling demonstrated in finishing the building of the famous Brooklyn Bridge. Roebling's father, John Augustus, was the brilliant engineer who designed the Brooklyn Bridge and began overseeing the building of it in 1869. It was going to be the first steel suspension bridge in the world, a feat of engineering for its time. But the project had hardly begun when the elder Roebling suffered a fatal accident, and someone had to carry on. That someone turned out to be his son. Washington Augustus Roebling took over where his father left off, but just 3 years later he contracted Caisson's disease from spending so much time underground. The illness left him almost completely paralyzed, in great pain, and confined to a wheelchair for life. Some people would have given up the project under those conditions, but Washington Augustus didn't. Instead, he moved to an apartment in Brooklyn Heights that overlooked the bridge, and he sat all day at the window, watching the work as it progressed and supervising it from his living room. Messengers ran back and forth, conveying his instructions to the workers on the bridge. Washington Augustus worked this way for 11 years, until the bridge was opened in 1883. Obviously, the younger Roebling's patience paid off, mostly because he, like other self-disciplined achievers, was not intimidated by time. Roebling would have sat at that window without complaint for 20, 30 years or more in order to finish his project. It meant that much to him. Later in this program, we'll explore further the special relationship between the highly self-disciplined and time. For now, we'd like to point out that time becomes immaterial to those immersed in pursuing a goal. Hours pass as if they were minutes, weeks as if they were days, years as if they were months. The self-disciplined do not worry about time. They also see time as a tool. Accomplishment takes time, and people who wish to achieve have all the time in the world. Because every moment they're working towards their goal, they know they are coming 1 minute closer to reaching it. And for the self-disciplined, getting there is at least half the fun. The undisciplined view time as an enemy, something to beat. You'll hear them say, "I want it all now. I can't wait." Unfortunately, these people don't realize that time is going to pass anyway, and if they're not working toward their goal, they're only wasting the time they feel is so precious. The self-disciplined are persistent. This is the 9th quality that contributes to their success. They have what it takes to stick to their vision through thick and thin, day in and day out. They don't give up in spite of rejection, hardship, setbacks, or other people's opinions. They are relentless in their pursuit of their own dreams and goals. The self-disciplined are actually very stubborn. They succeed against all odds. When they get discouraged, they draw new inspiration and motivation from their sensory-rich visions of success. And that's enough to fuel their emotional drive to keep on making the effort. Ellie Hawkins, a mountain climber, is a good example of someone who just wouldn't give up even when the odds turned against her. She set out to climb a particularly difficult face of Yosemite's treacherous El Capitan. Ellie undertook this climb to prove that dyslexia, a learning disorder from which she suffers, can be beaten. In the middle of the climb, Ellie slipped and suffered a rope burn on her left hand that was so bad she almost lost complete use of the hand. She could have stopped there, but she didn't. What started out to be a 6-day climb turned into a torturous 8-day ordeal as Ellie worked with one hand, holding her wounded arm above her head to lessen the pain. Ellie reached the top and immediately announced plans to tackle another very difficult climb. No one doubts that she'll do it, because she has the hallmark of a disciplined achiever. The undisciplined are easy quitters. They give up when the going gets rough. They're more interested in having a good time than in working. Even worse, they find it impossible to have a good time when they are working. This brings us to the 10th and last characteristic of the self-disciplined achiever, the ability to experience pleasure while working to achieve his or her vision. These people are excited by their goals and become easily engrossed in the work it takes to get there. They're interested in learning, they enjoy acquiring new skills, and they have a good time while they're pursuing their ambitions. To the highly disciplined, there's no such thing as work. Their work becomes their life and their main source of pleasure. When they become successful, you often hear them say, "I can't believe I'm getting rich doing this. It's so much fun." And most of them would keep doing what they're doing, even if they weren't making money at it. To the undisciplined, work is the stressful, painful, boring part of life that must be tolerated between periods of pleasure. These are the people who live for the weekend, who are willing to work only because it gives them the disposable income they can spend on fun. And these are also the people who don't want to put in overtime or take work home unless they're being paid extra for it. If taking on more work will only get them a promotion or a crack at a better job, they won't do it. Now that we've identified the 10 qualities common to all self-disciplined achievers, we'd like you to begin comparing yourself against the model characteristics we just discussed. This self-assessment will give you a good idea of your own strengths and weaknesses. After you've finished listening to this session, turn to page 11 of your study guide and follow the instructions for using the personal assessment form you'll find there. Let's summarize the characteristics of self-disciplined achievers. First, they have a strong, well-defined sense of purpose. They know what they want. Second, they seek out positive role models for inspiration and learning. Third, they use sensory-rich visions and a vivid imagination to set the stage for their own achievement. Fourth, they have a positive sensory orientation. They expect to succeed rather than fail. Fifth, they have a deep-rooted belief in their ability to achieve. They are immeasurably self-assured. Sixth, they have the ability to plan and organize. They can break down what they want to achieve into manageable steps and set priorities that let them accomplish the most important things first. Seventh, they know how and when to acquire essential knowledge and skills. They're not intimidated by the thought of having to learn something new. Eighth, they have patience. The passing of time doesn't bother them. They'll keep working toward their goal for as long as it takes. Ninth, they persevere. They're stubborn, and they don't give up, even when the going gets rough. 10th, they view work as pleasure, because work is bringing them closer and closer to the realization of the goal that will be their final reward. Turn off the tape now and score yourself on the personal assessment form. When you're done, turn the tape back on. Welcome back. We hope you're not too discouraged by an honest assessment of where you stand now in terms of self-discipline. Remember, you've already taken the first steps toward making a positive change in your life, and you will experience that change by the time you finish this program. Nothing will be impossible for you once you develop and harness this inspiring and enduring power of self-discipline. And, as you'll soon find out, self-discipline is not so difficult to develop as you might think. As a matter of fact, using this program is going to be your first exercise in acquiring it. Already, you're on your way. In the next session, we'll explore the power behind the characteristics we've just discussed. You'll learn why they're so important in developing self-discipline and what they can do for you once you have them. And you'll be further along the road toward understanding and developing the one characteristic that will give you the power of success. After completing Session 2, you should now have a clear picture of your strengths and weaknesses as compared to the model of the self-disciplined achiever. Perhaps for the first time in your life, you're able to objectively see which of your attitudes and behaviors have been acting as barriers to developing the kind of self-discipline that will enable you to achieve your dreams and ambitions. Now that you have a better understanding of the 10 characteristics of the self-disciplined achiever, we're going to provide you with the scientific foundation for Cybervision's unique self-discipline program. In this session, you'll learn how recent scientific discoveries have made it possible for you to acquire, harness, and focus the power of self-discipline, the power to achieve whatever your mind and heart are set on achieving. That power is what sets achievers apart from the mass of ordinary people, people described by American philosopher and writer Henry David Thoreau as leading lives of quiet desperation. That power is what drove great achievers like Dr. Jonas Salk, Ludwig von Beethoven, Albert Einstein, and Mahatma Gandhi. But what does that power consist of? What is the force that motivates high achievers to sustain a long-term effort that might take 10 years, 20 years, or a lifetime to achieve? More importantly, if we can define and isolate such a force, how can you or I tap into it? The force exists, and it has a scientific basis. By the time you've completed the neuropsychology of self-discipline, you'll understand its origins, its strength, and its power. And you'll be armed with all the tools you need to stay in touch with that force in order to accomplish anything you set out to do. There are many self-improvement programs that, like crash diets, offer good short-term results but stop working after a few days or weeks. These programs tend to rely on one of 3 kinds of motivation. The first is evangelical. A powerful orator, we'll call him Speaker X, comes to town with promises to increase motivation and production after a single seminar or series of seminars. Perhaps your boss encourages you and your coworkers to go. Perhaps he even purchases a block of tickets. Meeting night arrives, you attend, and the speaker is indeed inspirational, as are the bells and whistles and songs and slogans that accompany him. It is a fever-pitched, emotionally charged experience that Speaker X has to offer. As he exhorts you to live up to your enormous potential, to work harder, better, and more enthusiastically, to use your talents, to use your mind, you feel power welling up inside you, and the people around you are feeling the same kind of power inside them. Yes, you're all saying, we can be more productive, we can have a better attitude, we can get ahead if we want to. The very air becomes charged with mass enthusiasm. The next day, you're at your desk a half hour early, and you work a half hour past normal quitting time. The same thing happens the day after. You start planning new ways to accomplish your work more effectively. You're feeling happier about the work you're doing. And for the next few weeks, it looks like you're getting more work done in less time than you ever have before. But soon, your enthusiasm begins to fade, and your pace starts to slow down. Even if you have the audio tapes of the speech, it's hard to recapture and sustain the original emotion you felt in the presence of an inspired speaker. And of course, you no longer have the kind of group excitement and energy you experienced the first time around. You're getting tired and bored. Your boss sees productivity fall after an artificial peak, and sure enough, when the next motivational speaker comes through town, we'll call him Speaker Y, there's the boss with another block of tickets in hand. This evangelical form of motivation may get short-term results, but it creates an unhealthy dependence on external hype. It's like a drug addiction. You need more and more of an artificial stimulant to reach the same level of false well-being. When you get your shot of motivation, you become enthusiastic and energetic. When the shot wears off, you get sluggish and lethargic. The same problem exists with the second major motivational tool that most self-improvement programs rely on: external rewards, like money, prizes, bonuses for reaching quotas. These are essentially pats on the head from the boss, often desirable pats, but still pats on the head, signals that you've pleased someone else. This method works very well on children. Unfortunately, it tends to create a childlike dependence on outside rewards, even in adults. Like evangelical speakers, this carrot-and-stick approach produces only short-term results. External rewards do not increase individual commitment, and most people tend to adapt to them quickly, soon expecting bonuses as a matter of course, and not because they performed above and beyond the call of duty. Rewards are manipulative. People who give them out are always asking themselves, how can I motivate my staff? The truth is, to be truly effective in the long term, motivation must come from within. The third classic motivational tool is a familiar one: fear. Humorists Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks created a comedy album in the early 60s in which Reiner, as a journalist, interviews Brooks, who plays a 2,000-year-old man. Eager to know about life in the distant past, Reiner asks Brooks, what was the major form of transportation in those days? Brooks replies, fear. Fear transported you. Reiner is puzzled. Fear, he asks. Brooks responds, yeah, fear. You see, an animal would growl, and you would go 2 miles in a minute. It's true, fear is a great motivator. If you don't perform, something undesirable happens. You lose your job. There go the house payments, the car payments, the kids' college tuition, and so on. As the mental dominoes fall, you're motivated to keep performing. But while fear may bring short-term results, it also brings resentment and rapid burnout. It doesn't take long before you're angry at the system that's keeping you going. And anger makes you less productive, which increases your fear. It becomes a vicious cycle with an unpleasant ending. It should be pretty clear by now that these motivational systems aren't motivational at all. Each of them relies on an external stimulus and an artificial situation. And each relies on an initial burst of emotion that fades rapidly when the new situation becomes habitual. You may have tried several of these motivational or goal-setting programs in the past. Perhaps they even contributed to your sense of self-awareness. If so, you've no doubt learned that self-awareness alone is not sufficient to motivate change. It's easy to identify self-defeating behaviors. It's easy to plan strategies for eliminating them. It's easy to turn over a new leaf, but it's very difficult to sustain change for a long enough period of time for your new behavior to become as ingrained in your character as your bad habits were in the past. Having a roadmap is not enough. You need fuel. The key to developing self-discipline, the power to persistently pursue a long-term goal without giving up until the goal is achieved, is the fuel of internal motivation. It would be nice if we were all born with the patience, drive, and skill it takes to achieve any long-range goal or complete any long-term project. But we're not. Self-discipline is a learned behavior. Years of research at major American universities, primarily California's Stanford University, have proved it. And Cybervision's own research into the latest learning theories of behavioral scientists have confirmed that self-discipline is an acquired characteristic with a basis in behavioral science. The neuropsychology of self-discipline has been developed according to materials gathered from two major sources. Our information comes from our own research into the way human beings learn, and from the revolutionary discoveries about the structure and organization of the human brain made by Dr. Carl Pribram. Head of Stanford University's Neuropsychology Research Laboratory, Dr. Pribram is one of the most respected brain scientists in the world. Trained as a neurosurgeon, his research into brain function led to a deep interest in the behavioral sciences. His pioneering work in both of these areas led to the fusion of the two into the science of neuropsychology. As a neuropsychologist, Dr. Pribram studies how the nervous system and its component parts affects human behavior. Those studies have led to two revolutionary discoveries. The neuropsychology of self-discipline incorporates both of them. The first of Dr. Pribram's discoveries explains how the human brain forms visual and sensory images, and how those images affect our minds, our bodies, and our behavior. The second discovery is that our behavior is governed by images of achievement, neuronal blueprints of the skills and actions that determine our success or failure in the achievement of our goals. Let's discuss how each of these scientific discoveries leads us to understand the power and the origins of self-discipline. Many scientists and psychologists have believed for years that the human brain barely distinguishes a real experience from an imagined one. Best-selling self-help books like Psycho-Cybernetics, Think and Grow Rich, and others have used this belief as their foundation for motivation and change. This idea has also been the cornerstone belief of people involved in metaphysics and the human potential movement. The idea that the brain cannot tell the difference between a real experience and an imagined one has never been scientifically proven until Dr. Pribram's research showed us that it is true. But Dr. Pribram's research did not prove that, as many people think, all you have to do is imagine what you want, and through the magical power of the mind, you will achieve it. If this were true, achievement would be easy. And as anyone who has tried to achieve a long-term goal will tell you, it is not. Put into its proper perspective, this concept of imagination is critical to achievement, but not because imagination possesses a magical power to attract success like a magnet. Imagination is critical to achievement because it evokes the power and emotion that stimulates and sustains the drive to achieve. The human nervous system responds emotionally to imaginary images rich in sensory detail, in sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, as if they were real. In fact, the brain doesn't distinguish between sensory-rich imagination and reality. That's why the sight of a hand reaching for a murder victim on a movie screen can inspire the same terror, the same rapid heartbeat, and rush of adrenaline as a real threat does. You can perform a simple demonstration of how an imaginary image affects the body's responses right now. Close your eyes and imagine for a moment that you're holding a firm, ripe lemon in your hand. Now bring the lemon up to your mouth and slowly bite into it. As your teeth break through the peel, penetrate the skin, and sink into the flesh of the fruit, imagine the juice exploding into your mouth. What did you experience during this exercise? Did you develop a feeling of bitterness and distaste? Did you pucker up in response? Did you begin to salivate, as you would if you really took a bite out of a lemon? The feeling of bitterness is an emotional response, provoked by the imaginary sensation of the lemon juice being absorbed by the mucous membranes in your mouth. The buildup of saliva was a physiological response. Saliva neutralizes the acid level in lemon juice. You can create a similar response by imagining yourself biting into an onion. Rather than experiencing a sense of sourness and a watering of the mouth, your eyes will begin to burn and tear. This power of imagination to create physiological and psychological responses is crucial to the survival of the human species. The images of love and eroticism stimulate sexual response for reproduction. The image of fear stimulates the fight or flight response for survival. But our brain's ability to respond to images is a two-edged sword. A person who is dominated and controlled by emotional impressions becomes a victim of his own sensory images. These people act impulsively in response to their feelings. They have little control over their environment. They are easy prey for fear, superstition, and con artists. They are usually unhappy. On the other hand, the person who understands the power of imagery and who can deliberately harness a flood of sensory images to reinforce an intellectually formulated plan has a lifetime source of energy to apply toward positive action. This person uses emotion as fuel. Only when the imagination is harnessed and focused on the benefits and rewards of a specific goal can we light the fires of self-motivation and develop the kind of self-discipline that will help us achieve that goal. Dr. Pribram made a second significant discovery in his research into the brain and human behavior. He found that all of our actions are governed and driven by what he calls an image of achievement. That image of achievement is actually a mental blueprint for reaching a goal. It is made up of images rich in sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. And in the mind of a highly self-disciplined achiever, it serves as the source of emotional fuel that drives him to work long and hard to reach his goal. Wimbledon tennis champion Stan Smith reported that once he realized that he could compete with some of the world's best tennis players, he established a vision of himself becoming the #1 tennis player in the world. He imagined winning the Wimbledon title years before he actually achieved it. He saw himself receiving the trophy, dancing at the winner's ball. He felt the worldwide acclaim that would accompany his success. He used that vision as an emotional well from which to draw the necessary strength, persistence, and perseverance to spend thousands of hours in practice and competition, developing the skills and experience that would eventually see him to the realization of his dream. Have you ever heard someone say, "I wanted it so bad I could taste it"? That's the kind of stimulus that motivates the self-disciplined achiever. Not only can the achiever taste victory, he can see, smell, hear, and feel it too. After years of research, we now know that such deep sensory-rich images are the actual language of the brain. Although it is actually far more complex, the brain can be compared to a computer. Computers, also referred to as hardware, can do nothing by themselves. They are simply the vehicles for programs called software that tell the computers what to do. Think of the brain as hardware and the imagination, images of achievement, as software. Images of achievement tell your brain what to think, which in turn tells you how to act. The right images can set in motion a chain of events that will lead you towards any kind of achievement you can imagine. Author Joe Himes describes watching a Taekwondo master named Young Tai Lee practicing blows against a straw-covered board. Lee pounded his fist again and again against the board, oblivious to the fact that his knuckles were bleeding. When Lee's practice was over, Himes asked him whether his hand hurt. Lee replied, "Not until just now, when I thought about it." When Himes looked astonished, Lee explained further, "When I was striking the Makawara board as you came in, my mind was on my home in Korea. Though I was standing here, I was seeing the mountains I knew as a youngster and the children I played with, hearing their laughter and my mother's voice. I was unaware of the pain in my hand." Lee then told a dramatic story of his own Taekwondo master, who once underwent a sinus operation with only his own concentration for an anesthetic. "How was that possible?" Himes asked. "Regulate your breathing," Lee replied. "Fix your eyes and mind on something else, perhaps a rock or a spot on the floor or ceiling. Concentrate on that object, savor it, taste it, give it color, and smell the dimension. Let it absorb all your thoughts and concentration, and the pain will diminish. If we replace the word object in Lee's description with the word goal, we have the perfect description of a sensory blueprint. Concentrate on that goal, savor it, taste it, give it color, and smell the dimension. Let it absorb your thoughts and concentration. This ability to use sensory images to marshal one's powerful sensory impulses toward a goal is the essence of self-discipline. We are all born with imagination. Self-disciplined achievers have learned to use it to achieve even the most seemingly impossible goals. The self-disciplined achiever begins the journey to success with imagination. He asks himself, if I can have whatever I can imagine, what do I want? What is my purpose? When he has defined that purpose, he uses his imagination to create a vision of achievement, a sensory-rich image that will evoke an emotional response so strong that he is driven to action to bring his vision to life. And when he has achieved that goal, he uses his vision to create new goals, for the self-disciplined achiever never stops. He has learned such a powerful method for becoming successful that the pleasure of succeeding has for him become life itself. The self-disciplined achiever also uses imagination to change his goal whenever necessary. As images evoke emotion, and emotion propels him to act, he gets closer and closer to his goal. And the closer he gets, the more his reality changes. When it changes in such a way as to make his original goal either impossible or undesirable, he changes that goal to fit his new reality. The self-disciplined achiever creates a feedback system that ensures that he will never give up, and he will ultimately achieve what he wants. This is where most people fall down. They're working towards a goal, and suddenly circumstances interfere with that goal. They get sidetracked. Then when they try to get back on course, it doesn't work. Because their original goal does not fit their new reality, they think they have failed, and they give up. In the same circumstances, the self-disciplined achiever uses his or her goal visualization as a reality check. If reality suddenly dictates that the original goal won't work, the goal must be altered to fit reality. The achiever has not failed. He or she has set a new course that will lead to success. Take someone who sets out to become an obstetrician. After 4 years of pre-med and 2 years of medical school, our self-disciplined achiever suddenly realizes that she's far more interested in becoming a neurologist. Should she drop out of medical school? Of course not. She'll simply switch her visual blueprint to another field of medicine and change her plans for where she'd like to intern after medical school. She doesn't think of herself as a failed obstetrician. She thinks of herself as a successful neurologist. Or take the businessman who wants to open up a retail store in his neighborhood. During the knowledge-gathering process of talking to other business owners, discussing loans and insurance with bank officers, and looking into buying franchises, he discovers that a retail operation won't really fit his particular talents or expectations. Instead, he realizes he's a perfect candidate for starting a direct marketing company. So he changes his vision and his direction to fit his new goal. For these people, the fire still burns, but the trial and error process of working towards their goal has led them in directions they wouldn't originally have thought to go in, and they will be successful because they're flexible enough to grow and change as their goals grow and change. The relationship between vision, self-motivation, and achievement can be condensed into an easy-to-understand 7-step formula for developing self-discipline. As we explain that formula, you can refer to your study guide and follow along as we talk about the 7 keys to self-discipline outlined in diagram 3.1.
This is released for the sake of education. This is a brief key insight about all the concepts of the book. We provide free audiobooks, key insights, summaries, and brief study notes on the concepts of the books. So make sure to subscribe and become a part of our family.